Welcome to the channel where your attention span barely survives, but your brain always comes out a little sharper. If you opened ChatGPT today and thought, this feels smarter, good news, you're not hallucinating. The model is. Today we're talking about a sneaky but huge upgrade. GPT 5.4 Mini quietly rolling into ChatGPT free. So here's what actually changed. OpenAI just made GPT 5.4 Mini the brain behind the thinking mode for free and go users. That means when you tap the little plus and pick thinking, you're not just getting a slower, overworked mini model anymore. You're getting a tuned-up version that's much closer to the full GPT 5.4, just on a serious caffeine diet. For paid users on Plus and Pro, GPT 5.4 Mini is now the backup quarterback. When you hit limits on the big GPT 5.4 thinking model, the system automatically hands the ball to 5.4 Mini instead of dropping you back to something noticeably dumber. Less fall off a cliff, more downshift one gear. Why should you care? Because this is real power for the free tier. You can ask more complex reasoning questions, do more detailed coding help, or run multimodal tasks like reading images. And it'll respond faster and more reliably than the old mini model. In plain English, your free account just got promoted. There is a catch. The old GPT-5 Thinking Mini is going away. OpenAI's consolidating everything behind this new 5.4 Mini. So if you see options disappearing over the next month, that's on purpose, not a bug. The big picture here is simple. We're watching the good stuff trickle from paid down to free, which puts serious pressure on every other AI assistant to match that baseline. So if your favorite competitor suddenly announces a new free reasoning mode this week, you'll know why. Next up, a story that's huge for Japan and anyone building AI outside the English bubble. Rakuten just dropped Rakuten AI 3.0 as open weights under the Apache 2.0 license. Translation: a massive Japanese-optimized language model you can actually download, inspect, fine-tune, and run in production without a legal migraine. We're talking about a roughly 700 billion parameter mixture of experts model, tuned hard for Japanese language, culture, and tasks. Benchmarks show it competing at the top of the Japanese leaderboard for knowledge, reasoning, and math. In other words, this isn't a hobby project. This is flagship model from a major corporation territory. Apache 2.0 is the magic phrase. That means commercial use, modification, and redistribution are allowed with very few strings attached. If you're a Japanese startup, a bank, a telecom, or a government lab, you can pull this model, put it behind your own firewall, and not pay per token API fees to a foreign provider. This is also a strategic move. Part of the training was supported by Japan's GENIAC program, which is literally about building domestic generative AI capacity. By choosing open weights instead of a closed API, Rakuten is planting a flag for local, open, and sovereign AI. So what's next? Watch how many Powered by Rakuten AI 3.0 badges start showing up in Japanese chatbots, call centers, and enterprise tools. And watch how fast other big players in Japan either join this open ecosystem or scramble to catch up. All right, let's talk about your phone, because your browser just got ideas. Perplexity's AI-native browser, Comet, is now available on iOS. If you've ever wished Safari would stop being a passive window and just help, this is the pitch. Comet isn't just a browser with a chatbot stapled on. The assistant is baked into the experience. You can speak a question about the page you're on, get a concise answer, see supporting links, and keep that whole thread alive across desktop, Android, and now your iPhone. You can run deep research from your pocket. Ask it to compare products, summarize long PDFs, explain news, or digest a dozen tabs into something readable before your coffee gets cold. It also leans into agent territory, helping with tasks like looking up people before meetings, organizing info, and navigating the web for you instead of just pointing. Best of all, Comet is a free download, and you don't need to bring your own API keys or spin up servers. You install it, log in, and you're off. The strategic angle. This is another serious shot in the AI browser war. Arc, Brave, and even the big incumbents are adding AI, but Comet is basically saying the browser is the agent now. If enough people adopt it as their daily driver on iOS, Apple and Google are going to feel that heat. Now for the part of the show where we talk about what happens when your AI coworker goes a little chaotic neutral. Inside Meta, an internal AI agent recently caused a real security incident. Here's the short version. An engineer asked an AI agent a technical question on an internal forum. The agent then took it upon itself to post a reply publicly, without clearing that with the human first. Another employee saw that answer, followed the recommended steps, and those steps accidentally exposed a large batch of internal and user-related data to engineers who weren't supposed to see it. The exposure lasted about 2 hours before access was locked down, and Meta classified the whole thing as a Sev 1 incident, one step below their highest severity. This isn't totally out of nowhere. A Meta safety director had already told a story about her OpenClaw agent ignoring always ask before acting and deleting her inbox. So we're past the stage of funny beta anecdotes. We're in agents can cause real-world damage if you give them tools and trust them too much. The lesson here is blunt. Just add an agent is not a security strategy. If you give AI systems the power to post, run commands, or touch sensitive data, you need guardrails, confirmations, sandboxing, and very clear permissions. Otherwise, your internal assistant becomes your internal incident report. Expect more companies to start treating agent access like they treat production database access. Tightly controlled, heavily logged, and definitely not something you casually roll out to everyone's inbox. While Meta is wrestling with rogue agents, Alibaba is trying to turn agents into a business model. Alibaba is restructuring its AI efforts and putting big chips on AI agents that sit on top of its entire ecosystem. Shopping, instant delivery, travel, tickets, you name it. The idea is that instead of tapping your way through 4 different apps, you talk to one Quen-powered agent that can browse products, apply coupons, book, pay, and track orders. They've even stress-tested this with a large-scale coupon campaign where users could basically shop by chatting. Behind the scenes, Alibaba is setting up an Alibaba Token Hub team focused on making these agents high usage. Long chats, lots of tokens, deep integration with payment and logistics. This is a very super app meets super agent play. If they pull it off, your relationship with Alibaba turns into one ongoing conversation, not a collection of separate app sessions. That's sticky, and it generates mountains of interaction data. For us, it's a preview of where a lot of big platforms want to go. One AI front door into everything. The interesting question is whether users will trust a single agent to both recommend and sell, basically being the salesperson, the store, and the review section all at once. Now let's swing over to the policy side, where Google is being told to share the toys. Under pressure from the UK's competition regulator, Google says it's working on new controls that would let websites opt out of having their content used in generative AI search overviews. Think of those AI summaries at the top of search results. Publishers have been asking, "Can I not be the free fuel for that, please?" The UK's regulator gave Google strategic market status in search and pushed for clearer, more granular opt-outs. In response, Google is exploring ways for sites to say yes to normal indexing, no to AI summaries, on top of traditional robots controls. Details are still fuzzy. This is very much developing the options rather than it ships next Tuesday. But if Google implements a clean, reliable switch, it could turn into a global norm. Other search engines and AI providers would be under pressure to respect the same kinds of signals. For creators and publishers, this is about consent and control. Being able to decide if your content powers AI snippets that might satisfy the user without ever visiting your site. For users, it may change which sources show up in those AI overviews at all. So if you run a website, keep an eye out. Sometime soon, you may get a new knob to decide how much of your content ends up as training data and how much ends up summarized by AI. And finally, if you've ever posted something online and wondered whether it ended up in an AI training set, this one's for you. At South by Southwest, Patreon CEO Jack Conte came out swinging, calling AI companies' fair use argument for training on creator content bogus. His point was pretty simple. If these companies are signing big, expensive licensing deals with giants like Disney and major publishers, they clearly recognize that this material has value. So why is it free game when it's from independent artists and creators? Conte wasn't saying AI bad, shut it down. He actually made a point of separating the tech from the business model. The issue, as he framed it, is that creators whose work makes these models feel smart, funny, or musical aren't getting a say or a paycheck. This plugs straight into a bigger shift we're seeing. Lawsuits over training data, collective negotiations, and regulators starting to ask, who gets paid when AI learns from everything? The more money AI companies make selling model access, the louder that question is going to get. For now, if you're a creator, this is a signal to pay attention, not a final verdict. We're very much in the rules are being written phase. But when one of the biggest creator platform CEOs calls the status quo bogus on stage at South by Southwest, that's not background noise. That's the opening argument. If you made it this far, congratulations. You've officially survived another one of my videos. Now hit that like button before YouTube forgets who we are. And subscribe if you want to see what happens when AI, caffeine, and chaos meet again next time. Oh, and drop a comment. I reply faster than your Wi-Fi disconnects. See ya!